Hi folks, welcome to the Financial Argument. I find it quite appropriate to start the video with this quote from Henry Ford. It is well enough that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary systems, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. It seems that until decades ago, some people in the pursuit of truth had a better understanding of the current corrupt monetary system than people nowadays, who still have no clue what's going on. I've often told you that 2021 will be a very serious year for our economy, and the latest developments are no surprise to me. The Federal Reserve payment system, Fedwire, went down, freezing wire transfers between banks while I was editing this video. It's very clear that something big is happening. Perhaps they're trying out a new digital payment system, or are trying to cover up some other financial scandal. What's even stranger is that this problem emerged right after Mrs.Trillion Janet Yelled's statements about Bitcoin. Mrs.Trillion Janet Yellen referred to Bitcoin as an extremely inefficient way of conducting transactions, and stated her fear that it's often used for illicit finance. She referred to it as extremely volatile and brought up the huge risks it poses for investors. This woman manages to make me laugh more every time. After saying that there will be no more economic crisis in our lifetimes, this last event brought a chuckle. However, I'm sure that Bitcoin and other crypto investors laugh at Yellen the most. Also, those like me who hold tightly to gold and silver, the only real money created by God, have been laughing at this woman for years. Now, let's see what the Fed collapse tells us. The Federal Reserve System, which is behind almost all money transfers in the U.S., went down today, shutting down trillions of dollars in payments. It affected all payment systems the central bank is in charge of, including FedACH, the automated clearinghouse system, and Fedwire funds, an interbank transfer service. This event is similar to two others that occurred 2 years ago, in 2019. In case you're not familiar, ACH processes funds transfers like tax refunds, utility payments, payroll, Social Security benefits, and more. In 2019, they conducted over 62 million transactions in an average day. A spokesman for the Fed stated that there was an operational error and they were working on restoring it. After an hour of disruption, at around 2:30 p.m., their website, frbservices.org, stated that everything was back to normal. All services besides FedMail are still shown as disrupted. The website said normal processing should resume this afternoon. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the Fed issued a statement saying that they are investigating the disruption and will provide updates as they become available. So it looks like at this point, all FRB services were offline. How interesting. America's conventional money transferring system is not working. Services affected include account services, the Federal Reserve, Check 21, Check Adjustments, Fed ACH, Fed Cash, Fedline Advantage, Fedline Command, Fedline Direct, Fedline Web, Fedwire Funds, Fedwire Securities, and the National Payment System. A disruption with automatic clearinghouse services, besides affecting Social Security and income tax refunds, can negatively affect mortgage and electricity, water, and natural gas bill payments in the short term. But in the long term is where the ball starts rolling. A new monetary system is coming. As I described in many of my videos, especially in my recent record-high global debt video, this is good news for those tending to limited assets, but it'll be devastating for those who haven't prepared at all. It's worth considering the words of the other Mrs. Trillions, Sister Lagarde. Christine Lagarde previously served as the head of the French Ministry of Finance and the IMF. She is currently the president of the European Central Bank, ECB. She's presented as a role model both in the financial world and in the world in general because of her status as a woman, even though she appears ridiculous to me. Lagarde is facing charges of negligence for approving an out-of-court payout for a settlement with Tappi, which amounted to 400 million euros of taxpayer dollars. Prosecutors say she was negligent and misused taxpayer money by accepting a settlement instead of contesting it on behalf of the state. Well, somehow she got off scot-free. Again, while Christine Lagarde held her roles as the Minister of Finance, the President of the IMF, and the President of the ECB, she didn't send a warning about the unlimited printing of money by the central banks or negative interest rates and the dangers they may pose. On the contrary, the ECB increased the rate of printing money under her administration. Lagarde increased the amount of money printed by the ECB from $5 trillion to $8.5 trillion with the operation it started in 2020. Thus, the ECB has become the central bank that prints the most money in the world. Lagarde came out on February 11th and said central banks will not buy bitcoins. Sorry, ma'am, but who gave you the authority to speak on behalf of all the central banks of the world? Or are you the leader of a secret institution that we're unaware of? Who gave you the power to speak and even make decisions on behalf of hundreds of central banks around the world? Today, even the most famous companies in America openly say they would rather invest in alternative reserve assets like gold and silver and buy Bitcoin. Central banks can buy bonds, stocks, dollars, euros, or gold today. Why shouldn't they buy Bitcoin, just like many companies in the US do? Another fake hero is Janet Yellen. She's another big female name praised in the financial community and was the glorified chairman of the Federal Reserve until 2018. Like Lagarde, Yellen never worried about the potential dangers of unlimited money printing or negative interest rates. She was so confident that printing unlimited money would solve everything that in June 2017, she made a bold statement. As long as I live, there will be no economic crisis anymore. But unfortunately, in 2020, the biggest economic crisis in history started. I can hear people saying, how could Janet have predicted the health crisis? Please investigate why there was no significant economic crisis in the 1918 to 1920 health crisis, which caused at least 25 to 30 times more casualties than the 2020 health crisis. But the system came to a collapse in 2020? In 1918, the unlimited money and credit bubble was almost non-existent. However, before 2020, the financial system was inflated with unlimited money to historical bubble levels. Yellen and Lagarde were at the forefront of those who formed this bubble. Yellen was made Minister of the Treasury as if they were rewarding her failure. Again, local and foreign media applauded her for being the first female Treasury Minister in the U.S. Well, it's a nice thing for a woman to be the Minister of the Treasury, but was she even qualified looking back at what she said and did? It's like they were completely ignoring the damage she caused. Let's look at another woman's story, economist Judy Shelton. She defends the gold standard, which kept the world away from the economic crisis in the 1918 health crisis and allowed them to realize the Second Industrial Revolution. Her belief is that the central bank should only be able to print as much money as there is gold in their vaults. If you ask the conventional bankers, this is crazy. Something impossible. Of course, bankers and financiers do not want such an order, because in the 2008 crisis, they all suffered. Who would save these bankers if the states could not print unlimited amounts of money? This is why bankers get goosebumps when it comes to limited reserve money. Without unlimited money, they would all be unemployed today. Shelton proposes a modern digital gold standard. Judy Shelton, who was nominated by the previous administration to become a Federal Reserve member in the U.S., Shelton's membership came before the Senate as the election turmoil continued. The newly elected Biden administration didn't try to promote Judy Shelton because she's a woman or increase the amount of females in the Fed like you would expect. Shelton's membership needed a single vote. Another woman, Biden's deputy, Kamala Harris, put aside very critical election affairs just to prevent Shelton's membership. She came to Washington urgently and prevented Shelton from becoming a member of the Fed by voting against her. So folks, it's not a matter of protecting women's rights. Unlimited money domination is still trying to be imposed on the world with female figures positioned as pawns. Thank God there were other wise women who are not pawns. They may not be very famous at this time, but they make discerning statements about key issues. Hester Peirce, a member of the SEC, is one of these women. Peirce also stated on February 11th that banning Bitcoin is technically impossible and the illegal use of Bitcoin is actually very low. And most importantly, Peirce stated that the markets are now ready for a Bitcoin exchange-traded product, ETP. Well, Trillion Sisters, bankers, and the unprepared ones are the ones who need to start worrying after this recent unfoldment. We are ready. God bless you all.